Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivanadari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivanadari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivanadari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivanadari Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivanadari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivanadari Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Prabhupada Asadhar Sadushi Shimad His Divine Grace Shalasi Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Gaur Premanande Haribo Slava Akul Planim Bhaktama Slava Shri Guru Shri Gauranga Om Agyanatavanandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chaksur Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sabitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavam Scha Shri Rupam Sagridatam Sagana Raganatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sabadutam Vrijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Visakans Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karna Sindhu Dinabando Digapate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Prishubhanu Sita Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Panchakapa Trubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vyevacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Pranitinanda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Is this the verse that you chose?
Yes, you can choose another one if you
I don't know. I don't even know what the verse is. So it's Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 9, Chapter 19, Nayati achieves liberation. Text 16. 17. Okay. Matra swarasa duhitrava navi vikashino bhavet balavan indriya gramo vidvam sam api karshati matra swasra duhitrava navi vikta sano bhavet balavan indriya gramo vidva vamsam api karshati. Balavandiriya gramo vidvam samapi karshati. Matra swasra hitrava nana vikshatino bhavet balavan indriya gramo vidvam samapi karshati. Matra, with one's mother. Swasra, with one's sister. Duhitra, with one's own daughter. Va, either. Na, not. Avivikta asana, seated closely on one's seat. Bhavet, one should be. Balavan, very strong. Indriya grama, the group of senses. Vidvamsam, the very learned and advanced person. Api, even. Karshati, agitates. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. One should not allow oneself to sit on the same seat, even with one's own mother, sister, or daughter. The senses are so strong that even though one is very advanced in knowledge, he may be attracted by sex. Translation. Please repeat. One should not allow oneself to sit on the same seat, even with one's own mother, sister or daughter. For the senses are so strong that even though one is very advanced in knowledge, he may be attracted by sex. Purport. Learning the etiquette of how to deal with women does not free one from sexual attraction. As specifically mentioned here, such attraction is possible even with one's mother, sister, or daughter. Generally, of course, one is not sexually attracted to his mother, sister, or daughter. But when one allows himself to sit very close to such a woman, one may be attracted. This is a psychological fact. It may be said that one is liable to be attracted if he is not very advanced in civilized life. However, as specifically mentioned here, vidvam sam apikarshiti. Even if one is highly advanced materially or spiritually, he may be attracted by lusty desires. The object of attraction may even be one's mother, sister, or daughter. Therefore, one should be extremely careful in dealing with women. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was most strict in such dealings, especially after he accepted the sannyas order. Indeed, no woman could come near him to offer him respect. Again, one is warned herewith that one should be extremely careful in dealing with women. A Brahmacari is forbidden to see the wife of his spiritual master, even to see the wife of his spiritual master, if she happens to be young. The wife of the spiritual master may sometimes take some service from the disciple of her husband, as if she would from a son. But if the wife of the spiritual master is young, a Brahmacari is forbidden to render service to her. Matra swasra duhitra va naivivik tasano bhavet palavan indriya gramo vidvam samapikarshiti. One should not allow oneself to sit on the same seat, even with one's own mother, sister, or daughter. The senses are so strong that even though one is very advanced in knowledge, he may be attracted by sex. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Budaya Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharane Nirvishesha Srinivadi Paskyadyade Satarne. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna has said that actually what this is it? Rajas tamas chabibuya sattvam bhavati bharata. Rajas sattvam tamas chaiva tamas sattvam rajastita. Sattvam rajas tama. See. So sometimes the mode of ignorance, or the mode of goodness, defeats the mode of passion and ignorance, and sometimes the mode of passion defeats goodness and ignorance, and sometimes ignorance defeats passion, goodness and passion. This way there's always a competition for supremacy. As we can see in the example of Ajamil, although he was being taught from the childhood how to be in the mode of goodness, still, in contact with the mode of passion, he became overwhelmed, and his mode of goodness became covered by the mode of ignorance. Therefore it is said, Yayato Vishyam Pumsam Sangaste Shupajayate Sangat Sanjayate Kama Krodha Bhajayate Krodha Bhavati Samoha Samoha Smriti Vibram Sat Smriti Brahm Sat Buddhinasho Buddhinashat Pranashati. As soon as one is not Krishna conscious, in other words, unless we're feeling the ramante, the pleasure of being in Krishna consciousness, then there is every then one must be in material consciousness. And material consciousness means one can be in goodness, or one can be in passion, or one can be in ignorance. And of course there's combinations of them. But as soon as one is not in Krishna consciousness, even when it's in goodness, just like in the material world we find there are demigods there are human beings and there are demons. But it's not a steady position. One lifetime I may be a demigod, and the next lifetime I may be a human, and then after that I might become a demon. Demon means one who doesn't follow the scriptures. Human being means one who has some idea what scripture is and follows it. Demigod means one who abides with the scripture. And demon means one who's against the scripture, who doesn't follow the scripture. Yakshastra vidim utsrija vartate kamakarata dasasudim avapnoti nasukam na param gatim. So the word used is kamakarata. And the previous, that is, one who's being impelled by lust. If we don't follow scripture, then we must be impelled by lust. Trividar narakasyedam. Dwaram nashitamatmanha kama krota tata lovas tasmat etam trayam chayde. That there are three gates leading to hell. Lust, anger, and greed. Every sane person should try to get free from these three gates because they lead to the degradation of the self. So if we follow scripture, either by karma yoga or jnana yoga or stanga yoga or by bhakti yoga, then there's every possibility of not becoming influenced by these lust, anger, and greed. Lust is the mode of passion. Greed is also passion, ignorance, and anger is ignorance. So we get three results of not following Shastra. One of the three. And then there can't be any peace or happiness, or what to speak of the supreme destination. Therefore, yakshastra vidim utsrija vartate kama karata nasasudim avapnoti nasukam na param gatim tasmat shastram pramanam te karya vivasito yatva shastram vidanokta karma iharasi. One should know what is one's duty and what is not one's duty through the scripture, and knowing such duty one should act so that one can gradually become purified. So here it says the duty of one who's a brahmacari is that he has to avoid association intimately with the opposite sex. And here it says even coming too close to the opposite sex, unless one is very advanced in Krishna consciousness, because after all, Ajamil, he was from his birth trained as a Brahmin, and therefore when he saw a Shudrani embracing a Shudra, he tried to control his mind, but it got swept away, because he didn't have sufficient spiritual strength. The mode of gunas may not be sufficient, because the mode of gunas frees one from the agitation in the lower modes to some extent. But because it doesn't give one the higher taste, even in the Brahman realization, which is the Shuddha Sattva, one may still be, because the nature of the living entities who try to enjoy, he may be thinking of, as it says, dhyayatel vishayam pumsam. In the absence of positive enjoyment, one will look for something to enjoy. And Maya is always trying to attract the living entity and appears in different forms and offers that this will actually become if you can actually enjoy. So one is not actually in Krishna conscious, as it says, nasti buddhya yuktasya, nacha yuktasya bhavanaha, nacha bhavintak shantir, ashantasya kutak sukham. Therefore one is not in the divine consciousness, or Krishna consciousness, one is not thinking, at least hearing the holy name, and feeling Krishna's presence, can have neither controlled mind nor steady intelligence, without which there's no possibility of peace, and how can there be any happiness without peace? Unless we find the object of transcendental pleasure that can constantly give us happiness, then we're going to immediately, as soon as we forget that transcendental source of pleasure, look around for some other pleasure. And Maya is always offering, come and enjoy, come and enjoy. Therefore, until we come to the platform of being completely absorbed in transcendence, one should be very careful in one's dealings. Not only with women, but with men who are attracted to women, or attached to women. The Sangha. Chaitanya Maharaj said that Sangha was that Tri Sangha Eka Bhakta Krishna Bhakta Ara. Eka Sadhu Krishna Bhakta Ara. A Sat Sangha Tyag A Vaishnavachara Sri Sangi Eka Sadhu Tri Sangi Krishna Tri Sangi Sri Sangi Eka Bhakta Eka Sadhu Krishna Bhakta Ar Asadhu. So one who's, when Chaitanya Maharaj was asked, what is the symptom of a devotee, of a Vaishnava? He said, Asat Sangha Tyag A Vaishnavachara. One tries to avoid association with those who are interested in temporary things. Because anyone who's interested in temporary things is just emanating lust, anger, greed, illusion, is in a state of forgetfulness, and has lost their intelligence. So association with such persons means that one may become affected by it. If one does not have the bubble of transcendence around oneself, then one will the material influence will easily pierce our consciousness and enter into our heart and inspire us with the same lusty, angry, greedy, illusory, forgetful, bewildered state of consciousness. Therefore, one has to be very careful. One has to be honest and see what is our capacity if we actually want to make progress. Because one may be an illusion. As a matter of fact, who here is not an illusion? Who here is free from the bodily identification and sees everything one sees reminds one of Krishna? And therefore, one is a devotee of everyone. Is anyone here appreciating everyone all the time? So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his followers, those advanced, even Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is a devotee of his devotees. And he sees everyone rendering service, even to the slightest degree, they become devotees. Doesn't matter if they're God or they're the servant of God, they're all devotees of everyone else. So until we come to that platform, then we're devotees of our material conceptions of life, of our body, our material feelings, our material perceptions of things. We take these things very seriously. And our desires are influenced by these things. By the state of our body, by the state of our mind, by our conceptions of life. We're being influenced by these things all the time. And they produce our own desires. They direct our desires. In the absence of Krishna directing our desires, in the absence of Krishna's representatives directing our desires, then the material nature will direct our desires, either grossly or subtly. So therefore one should try to avoid influences which will misdirect our already fragile propensity to desire. In the proper circumstances, in a kirtan, or when we're out in book distribution, when we're actually in the mission, of course, if we can go out on book distribution and look for the most beautiful women on the street to have, some kind of exchange with them. We can get some smile from them or something, some appreciation, and that will make our day perfect in sense gratification. We got our quota of sense gratification for the day. But then we won't be satisfied. Then we'll want to go out tomorrow and find 2 beautiful women to have some exchange with. So one should be careful about thinking that I'm going to give myself a quota of Maya every day. Try to take things more seriously and see what actually is influencing me. When my consciousness is in ignorance, when it's in passion, when it's in goodness, and when it's transcendental, and not think, well, today I can have my share of goodness, a little passion, and of course ignorance is a nice little spice to throw in too. But it's all right, because I'm a Brahmacari, and I'm protected because of my saffron cloth. Maya can't pierce the saffron cloth. And one has to be aware of at least one's own consciousness. One should become aware of one's own position in the material world, not only what happened yesterday, but what's happening right now, where my consciousness is. And try to learn the science so that one will not put oneself into unnecessary association which will take one's consciousness away from Krishna. Just like that famous story of Rajneesh. He was a famous Brahmacari in Bombay. And but he was proud, thinking, I'm so powerful. So then he sent a letter to some Indian newspapers challenging, I challenge any woman to have me fall down. So Maya has many representatives to send out a general challenge. One is not fully conscious of Krishna. And if one was fully conscious of Krishna, who would send out a foolish challenge like that? Me against the material energy. When Prabhupada came to Boston in 1969, there was no place for him to stay at the temple, so he was staying outside. And a servant came and told us that Prabhupada sat in the front of his bed and fell back and rolled over and said, every night I pray to Krishna to please protect me from Maya. So when one is advanced in Krishna consciousness, one is fearful of Maya in one sense, or apparently, and one is very much inclined to take shelter of Krishna because of that fear, and one is not proud. One becomes humble and realizes one's dependence upon Krishna, that as soon as we forget Krishna, then we're subjected to all kinds of influence. And it may even be goodness, but without Krishna, without the support of Krishna, then ignorance can rapidly get boring. Yenye avarindaksha vimukta maninas. Even the topmost goodness, liberation, Brahman gets boring after sometimes, because one doesn't have shelter of the lotus-eyed Krishna. And then when we'll look around, maybe I should add a little passion today to the goodness, make it a little more interesting. And as passion gets into our mind, as we try to enjoy, then we become frustrated and angry that we're not enjoying the way we want to. And then we do all kinds of foolish things. We lose our intelligence completely. Now, of course, it's not that we're today, after the class, for the next 24 hours, we're going to meditate on Krishna's name, form, quality, and pastimes. So one should at least be a little attentive. What am I putting myself into? Especially we sit down to eat prasadam, we think now is the time to enjoy. Not a very good conclusion. Because as soon as we have that idea, now's the time to enjoy, then we'll probably, Maya will say, yes, you're right, now's the time to enjoy. And we'll make a big effort to enjoy. Because not a big effort, we'll make some effort to enjoy. And if we don't enjoy the way we think we should, sometimes they have like 108 preparations. And we think, wow, now I'm going to really enjoy. And after the 7th or 8th preparation, everything takes the same. We think, well, they were advertising we're going to have a big feast, but it's the same old thing. I'm not enjoying. And therefore one came to the feast to enjoy and winds up getting angry and frustrated. I'm not enjoying the way I think I deserve to enjoy. Instead of honoring prasadam and meditating on it and appreciating it, we think it's here for my enjoyment. Oh, I'm going to enjoy all the different tastes. But the human body is not really apt to enjoy so many things. It's a misconception. And therefore, without honoring prasadam especially, then we get, either we become unconscious and we eat too much, or we become frustrated and we don't eat enough. We don't chew our food. And then we get dissatisfied because we can't fix our mind on the holy name, because our mind is agitated. Then we look around. Maybe there's some lady out here or something will make me happy today. That I'm not such a bad person. I'm actually a powerful, attractive person. Let someone here put me in more illusion than I'm already in. So we have to be careful, especially taking prasadam or in relationship with the devotees. Hi, Prabhu. Here's my false ego. Are you going to surrender? And the other devotee thinks, no, Prabhu, here's my false ego. Are you going to surrender? Okay, let's fight it out. Who has the bigger false ego? So unless we develop the mood of service, and of course who in the material world was taught to develop a mood of service to something other than one's gross and subtle material body, or things in relationship to the gross and subtle body. To develop a service in relation to Krishna and extend it to other living entities is not exactly what we've been taught or trained up to do. But without that, then we're simply interacting with others in the modes of ignorance and passion, and sometimes goodness. But any interaction in one of those modes of material nature is never stable, nor is it satisfying, nor does it lead to any spiritual progress. And if the relationship with the devotees, the interaction with the devotees is the basis of remembering Krishna, then unless we interact with the devotees as the servant of the servant of the servant of Krishna, then it's not possible to be Krishna conscious. Then we're simply relating into this material world, not as a service to Krishna, but as a service to our false ego. And even if our false ego is in the mode of goodness, which is better because there's some opportunity to correct ourselves in the mode of goodness, but if we make a mistake, if we're in the modes of ignorance and passion, then we just justify all our mistakes. The false ego will find some reason to justify what we're doing wrong, and we never make very unlikely we make any progress until we suffer enough. And even that is just we try to figure out what I have to do in the material world to relate to others and to relate to what I'm doing, so I can suffer little and enjoy the most. We think we've learned my lesson. Now I know how to suffer the least so I can enjoy the most. But that's not Krishna conscious. It means that we haven't learned anything. We may have learned something, but it's not stable, because at any moment our intelligence can be taken away. We may find ourselves in the same or a lower position we were before. That's why even when we make some spiritual progress sometimes, but then we become proud, and we think I've learned so much. As soon as we think we've learned so much, then we can't learn anything else. We think I'm so full of knowledge, although actually we're so full of ignorance, because we still haven't realized the knowledge that we think we know so much. Therefore, one has to be very cautious, humble, realize our precarious position, try to take shelter of Krishna the most we can, and even if we feel some protection coming from Krishna, or from his representatives, not to become proud. Now I become liberated. Now I'm perfect. And then immediately, how did this happen to a pure devotee? How is it possible? I'm so advanced. How is it possible I could be, again, in the modes of material nature? So here it says, very simple thing, don't sit next to your sister, your mother, or your daughter. So we don't have any of them. But don't look around for someone to be close to. Even if you don't sit next to them. Even mentally put them in the mind is not a very good idea. Those sannyasis or monks who were crossing the river, and one lady came along, old lady, and said, can you help me cross the river? So the monk put her on his shoulders and crossed the river, and then put her down. And the other monk, when they were walking, said, how could you have done that? How could you put that lady on your shoulders and cross the river? So the monk said, yes, I crossed the river with her on my shoulders, but you've been carrying her in your mind since we've left her. So we should be careful also how close we get to women in our minds also. Because closeness in the mind is actually more disturbing than the physical closeness too. And if we get too close to women in any way, associating with them in so many different ways, the internet, books, looking at them, then the result is that it'll influence our mind. It's actually also a very close association, even closer than physical in some respects. So we should avoid that too as much as possible. Otherwise, as soon as we contemplate the objects of the senses, eventually we're an illusion, we forget who we are and our intelligence gets lost, we're liable to do any crazy thing, however advanced we may think we are. So I'll stop there. Thank you. Any questions? Yes.
Here in the purport, it seems that Srila Prabhupada focuses on instructing the Brahmacharis that they should not associate intimately with women, not even with the wife of the spiritual master if she happens to be young. He's explaining the verse, but do these instructions, to what extent do these instructions relate to others who are not brahmacharis, like grihastas?
Well, Prabhupada said the business of grihastas being Maya. But if one is a brahmachari grihasta, then one is very cautious in how to deal with women. Now ultimately one has to see everyone in relation to Krishna. One has to understand that I got married not for sense gratification. I got married to, my duty now that I'm married is I have to assist my wife in helping her become conscious of Krishna. One should not see the wife as an object of enjoyment, but an object of service to one's spiritual master and Krishna. Similarly, the children. Otherwise, one will fall, then Maya will overwhelm one. Anytime we see anyone outside of relationship with Krishna, then we fall down from our spiritual understanding. So therefore, a serious grihasta has to have a serious service attitude, including to his family, or especially to his family, in relation to Krishna. Then one, without developing that service attitude, one will never become a proper vanaprastha or proper sannyasi. It's impossible. Unless one develops that service attitude towards his family members, service attitude in Krishna consciousness towards the family members, like Karana Muni and Devahuti, Kapili Dev and Devahuti. Anyhow, just better to just not get too, analyze too much the relation, what kind of relationship a grihasta has. better to think about the ideal relationship like the four Kumaras have with everyone. And appreciate anyone who renders service to Krishna. Although they may not be on the transcendental platform all the time, but by rendering service, they'll make advancement towards that. And even if they have some difficulty in Grihastha life, it's part of the training program too, to find out that you didn't marry the goddess of fortune, you didn't marry a faithful servant who's going to serve all your senses. You married someone who wants to be served also, their senses. And therefore one will learn that Grihastha life, if it is Grihastha life, has to be improved in order to bring one to the spiritual platform. One should take it seriously. Because it is an ashram, if it's taken seriously, or one may become a grihameti if it's not taken seriously. In any case, the brahmacharis shouldn't be too much into criticizing the grihasthas, but they should take example of how miserable it is if you're not a real grihastha. But unless the brahmachari is actually trying to come to the spiritual platform and experience a higher taste, then he won't understand how the grihasthas are miserable, because he'll be miserable too. Instead of trying to help the grihasthas by a good example, one will become envious of them. I'm in anxiety because I want to enjoy. The grihasthas in anxiety because they want to enjoy, but they have some opportunity to enjoy. They're getting one drop in the desert, and I don't have any drops in the desert. Anything else? Yes.
How about, because sometimes we say that we are devotees, so this doesn't apply so much in devotee communities. Like this association between Mataji and Prabhu, because we are transcendental.
We're not transcendental. You're transcendental. Why should we pretend we're transcendental when we're not? And even if we were transcendental, still we should follow the proper behavior so to set the example for others. And if we don't follow the proper behavior, it's not because we're transcendental, it's because we're in the modes of material nature. One should think what is my duty and what is not my duty. And that should be judged by Guru, Sadhana, and Shastra. So here it gives us some instruction how to be careful. And if we're not careful, then we're not following Shastra, and then we're subjected to the modes of material nature that we're influenced, that we're conditioned by. Hvala, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Pur Premanande.